All right, welcome to Artcasters number 216, which is...
I think it's 17, but I'm not. I think it's 17.
Well, then I'll have to correct it. We're getting so high up in the numbers that I can't keep up. But anyhow, so we have a really good show today, and as usual, we'll just kind of make the rounds and tell everybody where they can find us and stuff. If you're new to the show, it's a show where we talk about the ins and outs of cartooning, design, illustration. We kind of shoot the shit a little bit, and have a rotating third guest every week. And we're honored to have this guest, and we'll get to him in a second. So for now, I'll just say I'm Joshua Kimball, and you can find my work on this YouTube channel. So definitely, if you haven't yet, hit subscribe. And if you want to read my comics about faith and mental illness that are handwritten, hand-lettered, hand-inked, and then handed to you very soon in print. I'm literally working on the book layout right now. So before I put the book out and then decide I'm being crazy for putting this all out for free online, go check it out at quarterlystories.com. Quarterlystore.com might take you somewhere else. So quarterlystories.com. All right. And then joining us as usual is our co-host with the tier. And just before we even get into this, I'll say #PrisonTears. And Scott, why don't you explain the tier and let people know where to find you?
Yeah, so basically it's kind of a joke that Josh and Corey came up with because I said I need to. I kind of enrolled in this program called Merch by Amazon, which is a way to sell T-shirts and things on Amazon. And they it's pretty competitive. And there's a lot of people in there, so they kind of ease you in. And when you start off, you can only upload 10 shirts. And you have to sell 10 before you can move up to the 25 tier. And they said, and Josh and Corey said, when you move out of each tier, because the first two are the hardest. The 10 tier and the 25 tier are the hardest. Then you can upload 100 shirts and you have a look, because it's kind of a numbers game. So they said, when you get your first two tiers, you got to actually get like a prison tier. So I got out of the first one. And now I'm trying to get to the next one. So 25 tiers. I think I'm about 5-6 shirts away. So, but yeah. So this is one of the shirts here. The Haters Hate, Creators Create, and you can find those right here if you go to Amazon.com/shop/Circworks. And there'll be a link where you can find some of those shirts there, and you can kind of see the ones that I've got up there now. So yeah, that's pretty much all I got to promote until I get this next year.
I love it. And please, you guys, make my day. I want to see this happen. It's been a real joy of my life seeing this. All right. And we're also joined by the Berserkernaut. Wait a minute. Wait a second. What's that doing there? It's our old pal, the founder of the Artcasters, the guy who started this whole thing. I think Jeff was the guy who invited me on, back when it was Jeff, Scott, and Kevin, and always a pleasure to talk to. But the talented painter, illustrator. Where can everybody find your awesome comics? Where can they find your paintings? Where can they find your animations? And your rocket ships, apparently. I mean, you're doing everything. So where can everybody find your stuff?
Well, my website is jefflafferty.net, and then my YouTube is just Jeff Lafferty. So
awesome.
That's where everybody can find me. Thanks for having me on, Josh. Hey, Scott, how's it going?
Anytime, Jeff.
Yeah, honestly,
it's kind of your show in a way.
Yeah.
So
honestly, you can kick us off any day.
Oh, thanks. That's cool. I think I did actually steal the name Artcast from a different guy though. There was a smaller channel that was doing Artcast, and then I just grabbed it and steamrolled them and just ran with it. And everybody thought that I invented it.
True, but it's not This isn't your show's the Artcast. This is the Artcasters.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess that is the difference. Yeah, yeah. Well,
I
thanks
love it.
for inviting me. It's always fun to come and back and visit with you guys. So
Yeah, it's been a while, and well, one of the things that made me want to invite you on was I recently saw a video that you put up about kind of following your dreams as a topic, and I was thinking about it, and it's like, like about a year ago, Scott recently took like the jump and just went full freelance, and
well, I didn't take it on purpose, but I was kind of forced.
Purposeful or not, you kind of decided like, I'm going to commit to this and kind of make it work.
Yeah.
And here you are, like still rocking it, which is like, if anyone out there on this planet thinks that it's easy to last as a freelancer in art for over a year, try it. And then let us get back to us after that. So that's a huge feat. And Jeff, you've just been rocking it. Like you kind of even started your channel just being like, boom, like I'm done with in-house jobs. I'm going to build my own thing. And here you are, just still rocking it. And
yeah,
so I just think,
so
I think it's a good topic, because it's like, let's get into it. I mean, what do you kind of think of when you think of pursuing your dreams? Maybe a good starting point is like, what do you hear often from people who are, I'll put in quotes, like pursuing their dreams?
What do I hear from other people that pursue their dreams?
Well, that maybe might say like, I had a dream like to do that thing, but I'm too busy, or what I mean? I'm sure you hear that.
Yeah, you're setting me up for the for the one here. And yeah, it's like that's you're right. It's like that's what everybody says. Everybody always had like, what they wanted to do, and everybody, or most people, 90% of the people you meet are working somewhere in some like safe job, and they just kind of, it's just a story at that point. They never either tried it and they quit, or they never tried it and they never did it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, to me, you just kind of owe it to yourself to go for it, though, I think, in life, because you only get one turn around the merry-go-round. And if you don't take the shot, then for one thing, you miss out on the good story. Win, lose, or fail, it's like, it's still a good story. And the second thing is you don't want to live the like that quote, live the life of quiet desperation. You want to at least take your shot at it. So I guess that's sort of how I look at it.
Yeah, and I think there's like there's a personality trait to people. I don't know if it's a personality trait. I think it just requires kind of just like taking a leap at some point. And I think that leap is what freaks people out and keeps them stuck.
Yeah.
And it's either that or like like Corey and I do the 48-hour art check too.
Mm-hmm.
And we want to do this more. So if you know anybody who's like not working on their art that wants to be on our show that we can grill, let us know. But like one of my passions in life is talking to people who aren't doing the thing in art that they feel they need to be doing.
Yeah.
Because I feel like there's I don't know. I feel like there's like a difference between a person who like, I don't know, played music as a kid, didn't really get anywhere with it, kind of was like, okay, music's not for me, and just kind of resign themselves to a job and are content. Like, cool, good. That's, I don't think any of our shows or YouTube channels are like, would be critical of that person. It's like, great, good for you. You found like your thing. Yeah. But often like, when you meet those people who have that like pain, like that ache to be doing the thing, and yet they're like going home and like putting on the game, or like, like I said, during that art check, we were talking to one person who hadn't created any personal work for like 6 months. And I think they were like, yeah, in the mornings, I like to wake up and chill. And we're like, wait, so your complaint is that you have no time, but you wake up and chill, right? Like, what is that? Like, that sounds like time.
Yeah.
You know? So it's like, I don't know, it's a fine balance, and but it's really inspiring when people do it. And I think it can be cool and threatening to people who make excuses.
Oh yeah. I don't think like the people who don't do it, they don't like to hear about it. I definitely see that. And one thing I'd say about myself is I took the leap several times and failed, long before I ever kind of did it this last time and stayed out here for as long as I have.
Yeah.
I remember back, when I first kind of got on the internet, and I had worked, I had this delivery job that I'd been working at for quite a while, and I got laid off from that, and I was like, I'm going to get back into comics. This was kind of way back when. And, I just had no contacts. I had no, I just, like everybody I knew that I had worked for before had, moved on to other places. I just had no way back in,
Yeah.
And so it was really like an unrealistic goal, but I had some money, kind of from like my job, because it was a good job and I had kind of built up some money. So I wrote it out for like 6 months when it completely broke and I had to go back and get a job, but I don't know. That's just part of it. It's like there's just something in certain people where I kind of feel like they can't be successful at other things because it's almost like having a rope tied to their foot, and like get out a ways and they can't go any further because that rope is pulling on them, and they got to go back and try to figure it out again. And that's me. Like I always come back to art. I kind of just can't, I've been sort of successful in other things, like I had a painting business and stuff, but it's like that art thing just always pulls me back, and I screw it all up so I can go back and try it again, when or not. You gotta, just do it. It's like in your blood,
Yeah, I always joke that, I mean, you've heard this, I'm sure, but it's like, I always joke that comics can be like a really bad, like, unfaithful relationship, or more similar to kind of like a drug habit, in the sense that like when you really are hooked on making comics and you really want to make comics, you're going to be making comics like come hell or high water. And I that's definitely a through line with animation and with any real, like, kind of ambitious like forms of art. And so it is interesting to think the drive itself is like one of those things, like, can you even like pick that or learn that? I don't know. It almost seems like, I guess, sticking with like the dream thing, like, there's a lot of people who dream sleeping, right? But then there's some people who like dream awake and actively and make steps to do something about it, whether they fail or succeed. And and then I think just seeing that, like if you're a sleeper, seeing someone awake and moving and trying is really can be really frustrating, right? Because it just kind of reminds you it's possible. I don't know, but so what was the final trigger, and then what would you kind of say like about the pursuit of your dreams? Like, what are I guess let's start with that. Like, what kind of made you just like, enough already? You're talking about like a drive. I guess that's kind of it, right? Is there any more to it? Like, Scott, like what made you be like, I'm not really going to look for another day job. I'm just going to trust this thing and write it out and see what happens and like trust it. Like what was your thing?
Honestly, it was just I was kind of at the end of my rope, because I have, I've been fortunate enough that for the most of my career, other than a few times when there was times when I was freelance, and if it wasn't cutting it, I had to do some construction, stuff like that. I really don't have any other skills, to be honest.
Yeah,
so,
me either.
So it's kind of, I always say I never had a plan B. That's why I got to make this work. But, I've been fairly fortunate for the most part that I've always had most of my day jobs have been art jobs, but they're just not the most stable jobs. And the more you go into work, you put in your all and give it to a company, and it either just folds, or I mean, you're just discarded when, for the bottom line or whatever the case is. And I was at the point where it's just like, the longest I ever lasted in a company was like 3 years before, it's not like, my dad's had this career where, he was at the same job for like 20 years and he was able to retire and all that stuff. That's becoming less and less of a thing, especially in this field of art, So it's like, I don't want to give my talents and my knowledge, or whatever you want to call it, to other people just so I can just be thrown away like yesterday's garbage when they when they don't feel they don't need it anymore, or whatever the case is. So I'm like, so that's basically it. And I'm not saying, I mean, I'm going to do everything I can to make this thing work. If it doesn't work, I'm not going to say I'm beneath going back to another, day job like that. I mean, I've got mouths to feed and bills to pay and all that kind of stuff. But I want to do whatever I can to just, create work for myself. Yeah. And not even, I'd like to get to the point where, I mean, right now client work is paying for most of what I'm doing. But even that, I mean, the beginning of this year, and it's still kind of like, it's still very unstable whether this continues on. So I'm trying to build these other things like the merch by Amazon and the KDP and all the, selling digital products, trying to build something on YouTube, all this other stuff. So if that work, dries up or goes away, I've got other sources of income, because I don't want to have to go back and work for somebody else. I only want to work for myself. So, I mean, that's kind of it. And, I took a big hit. I mean, because I was doing freelance and I was doing my day job, my art job. Yeah. And that went away. I basically lost half my income. So it's like, it's basically just enough to kind of squeak by. I mean, it's not easy, but I can tell you, I'm enjoying the ability to work on what I love. And I don't need a lot of things. I don't go out and buy fancy things, because the things I like are basically what I'm doing, it's creating and things like that. So, so I'm able to get by for the most part. I mean, some of the stuff is hard. Like, I've got a daughter who's in dance, and that's super expensive. So there's certain things like that, and little things like, all that stuff. But I'm seeing at least some of the fruits of my labor and the effort and things that I'm putting on little by little. So it's just, I've just got to X that until I get to a point where, hopefully get back to kind of where I was before, when I had the day job plus the freelance, and it's not so much of a struggle. But honestly, I don't know if I'd have it any other way. And that's like, I wrote the copy for the newsletter when I sent it out, and I was kind of approaching it from the perspective of, this isn't easy, it's, it's hard to do. And like, I know some people who struggle and maybe never do it. And I know some people that they get a lucky break, and you can put your all into something. And I kind of, for me, I kind of see that with like YouTube. I mean, and Jeff can attest to this too. I mean, we've been on YouTube for a long time. I've gone over almost 6 years now with uploading at the very minimum 1 video a week, if not sometimes some weeks, when I was doing the 100 days, 5 days a week. Right now, 3 days a week, usually 2 days a week on average, every day for 5 years. And I'm still, I mean, I'm thankful for all the community that I have. Mm-hmm. but you know, I've seen people that are on way less that something hits and I can do all the right stuff. I can spend a lot of time on thumbnails. I can fill out every single, you know, keyword that they'll allow me to put in there. I can try to make enticing titles. I can try to do high production quality. I can get better at my craft and get better at speaking on camera and all this stuff. I can do what I'm doing now where I'm making a series and all that, but it's kind of right now, it seems like where we're at now, you can do all that stuff, but unless YouTube, their algorithm somehow takes notice of you, you kind of, in some ways, in the grand scheme of thing, you just kind of exist here on YouTube in obscurity for the most part. I mean, again, I'm thankful for, you know, everyone that watches my content and the community they have. And I would do this. I mean, obviously I would have given up a long time ago if I didn't enjoy it. So there is that, but it's still, it can be frustrating because, you know, and sometimes you hear people that are just like, I've been on YouTube for 3 years and I thought it was, and just like, it's just like, you know, I don't know.
I know.
It's just, I don't know what I have to do, to be honest, because right now, honestly, now that I'm doing this series and everything, I'm getting more views, and not that I count on this revenue because it's not a lot no matter what, but it's lower than before I started the series, and my subscriber count isn't growing as much as it was. So why is that? I have no idea. I just don't,
Scott, I was going to say one thing about YouTube because, you know, like I'm there with you, and all that kind of stuff that you just said, I have been there a million times being like, well, this fucking doesn't work. Everything you do doesn't work. It doesn't make any sense. And then, you know, something comes out of the blue that starts to work. And I think like when I look at your channel and stuff, you know, every now and then I'll go over and I'll see what you're doing and everything. And I see what you're doing with this, you know, art or whatever, Comics 101 and stuff. And I think you actually are doing the right thing. And like those kinds of videos, like even though maybe you're you know, I don't know what's going on like with the money or like what's happening with the views at the moment, you're creating like kind of like this evergreen kind of stuff. And I think that's the one thing that I've seen that sort of seems to be the tie-in kind of factor from these channels that I've seen, you know, pass me and things like that, or even with my own channel, where it a lot of times it is sort of like an older video that starts to pick up steam. And then it's, I don't know what it is, but you're kind of right. It's almost like YouTube sort of takes notice in some way and promotes your stuff and pushes it in a way that you can't do it. Because like me and you know, I've tried everything pushing, you know, I've tried to bring people from every, you know, corner of the internet to come watch my videos and I've never really been able to, you know, build up a huge thing, but it's, you know, you are growing. And I think that honestly, you're going to get there eventually. So.
Yeah, I mean, it would be nice. I mean, and it's some of it's selfish for me, but also honestly, I mean, this course, the thing that I'm doing right now, I just want more people to see it because the people that have seen it, I mean, I get emails all the time, like, thank you for doing this, and you know, and just I get that. So I mean, half my comments on those videos are that, thank you for doing this. Is very, very helpful because there's a lot of comic book content on the internet and everything. And I've seen people that try to start to do something like this series and then it dies out. They don't finish it. And I'm kind of in it for the long haul. So, you know, I'm trying to do what I can. And, you know, and the other thing's like, I try to get back to everyone that comments. You go through my page. I mean, if there's a list of things that they say to do for YouTube, I think I'm doing it. So what else do I need to do is kind of think like, you look at my playlist, I've got descriptions on all the playlists. I've got like everything. I mean, I don't know.
YouTube is a really hard Rubik's Cube to crack.
It's
like, I really honestly don't know the answer either, but it's like, I think I feel like I've seen things in the last, like say from, once I hit, say, 10,000 views, I saw things inside of YouTube that I didn't know that were sort of there. You know what I mean? It seems that YouTube, like before you hit 10,000, I don't think YouTube, like even, you know, you're non-existent to them. You know, they don't give you any help or anything, you know, except for, I mean, there's some people that hit that viral video kind of thing, but I'd say in general. And then it seems like even after you hit 10,000, nothing ever happens either. But it's like I don't know. There's something about like the back catalog that seems to push the channels, and I think it's happening with you because you have some videos.
No, I do see that. I see the views. I mean, the views are definitely helping, and I do know that this is evergreen, and this is something that you know, and maybe, and I've, like you said, I've seen a lot of people. I think Kevin, when he had that big surge, I think there was an older video that did it for him.
Yeah,
I just recently saw Dan Ekus, like he had some video or something that went. I mean, he just kind of started to skyrocket. I saw it to a lesser extent with Marshall with the video that he put out. So yeah,
Dan Ekus like going up though. I thought I was over at his channel the other day. I didn't think he had like very many subscribers though.
Well, I mean, he was. I remember probably like a year ago, he had like made this push to, I just want to get 1,000 subscribers, and he's been on for a long time. Yeah, and he hit that, and then after that, some stuff started to hit, and it started to grow. But then I think it kind of leveled out a little bit. But still, he did have a little bit of a surge.
So for like his level, yeah, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
So here's something I want to kind of posit here, which is I kind of don't know if this is unique to YouTube, because here's one of the darker secrets of like freelance or pursuing your dreams or anything like that, is like it is possible to do all, like Jeff was talking about. Like Jeff's a talented artist, right? So those times where you gave it a shot and then had to do construction, right?
Yeah,
that's part of it. And there's this weird thing that pretty much anyone who's had a modicum of success at this stuff, because if you get a little success at it, like there is a good portion of it that is just like a YouTube algorithm, as you guys are describing it.
Right.
So if you get like a modicum of that, and then you have like a new illustrator like come to you with a question like, how do you find clients?
Yeah.
It's a hard one to answer, because first off, that was long ago.
Yeah.
Second off, like there's a lot of weird coincidences that led to my career.
Yeah.
And so it's like I've had to like I like last year I was invited to do this like art directors thing, and it's like this weird like smarmy like wine cave kind of thing which is weird because it doesn't match my pay scale, you know. But they were like, you're an art director, can you review photographers? And I'm like, I don't even hire photographers. Like I hire illustrators. And they're like, well, there'll be 2 illustrators there. I'm like, okay, cool. And they're like, and we'll pay you. And I'm like, okay, I'm in. So I show up to this thing, and it's all these young aspiring illustrators, and not actually illustrators, photographers, like asking me like, let me in. How do I get in? And I'm like, I can't. It's a hard question to answer, and it's nuanced, and it's not black and white, and you can do all the right steps. What I can say, I've seen this with Scott. Like Scott, you're not seeing it as much as like Jeff or I. Jeff too. Like it's like you know, since the time, like I thought Jeff had so many subscribers when I joined Artcasters, right? But since it's the time that I joined, like I've seen that skyrocket quite a lot, quite substantially. And same with you, Scott. Like you've at least doubled, but I think possibly tripled the subscriber count since I started on here. And you're not seeing that because you're like in it. But so here's the weird thing that I've noticed with art too, that's kind of similar to that, which is, and pursuing your dreams, which is like you kind of, it's not, I don't want to do the secret thing because I hate that and it's corny and all that, but there is some truth to the idea of like you kind of have to just put a lot of like roots out there, like you're a tree or something. You have to kind of put your roots everywhere. And what's weird is every once in a while you get a drop of water, and then when you get that, you jump on it. Like you literally, if you just ignore the little drop of water you got, especially like starting freelance or anything like that, like if you ignored that like first like signal of like, hey, I like this, like Scott, like you were saying, like you get a comment, you jump on it, you're like, thank you, you know. And I think that's part of it. It's like you kind of have to play that game because there's a whole bunch of it that is kind of rolling the dice. And I think that's the thing that freaks people out about it, right? Is the idea of like, well, what if I roll the dice and then I have to go back to a day job, like how with my tail between my legs or whatever.
Yeah,
and it's
people
like,
want like that answer where it's like an explanation. It's like I do this, this, and this, and it works. They hate that whole idea of like it is still a roll of dice. And I agree. It's like YouTube and also definitely in life, it's the same thing. There's still a lot of chance to it. You can do everything right and you can completely fail still.
Yeah, and like what's weird is like you talk like Jeff, you live in like Colorado. There's hunters, right? Do hunters always expect? But what I'm saying is like if you're going out on a hunt, like because there's hardly any wildlife in California, right?
I'm in like a little lodge with like moose heads all around me.
But what I'm saying is, like at least my uncle, the reason I mentioned that, my uncle, right? He's a hunter who lives in Boulder, right? Okay. And like he'd go out hunting, and he wouldn't go out with like the expectation that he's going to come back with like a prize elk, like after like a day out. Like it's an excursion, and you may not succeed. You could be like the best hunter in the world, and just you're not going to get food. What makes you successful at that is being hungry, right? Like you got to be hungry for the target that you're aiming for, and continually show up. And like you might like that's where like fate kind of smiles on you every once in a while. Yeah, at least in my career, like I've never had a moment where somebody was like, "Hey, dude, here's the door. I'm going to open it for you." That would be amazing. Never happened. I've had to kick the door or like break through the wall. And it's weird,
It's a good analogy, the hunter thing.
Sorry for being corny and
right.
bringing that to Colorado, because also like I know there's a lot of my kind live in California, in Colorado and California. So, but
you're right. I mean, it's like there's a lot of luck to it, to hunting or whatever. There's elements of chance. That's why wolves like starve to death in the winter and stuff, because they couldn't pull it off that time,
But but the weird thing is like we all have this common thread, right? Like, did you wait for a chance to just kind of shine on you?
No, that's another part of it, sure. Because if you don't go for it, you're not going to get any. You miss like that thing. You miss 100% of the shots you don't take, all that stuff. That's the truth. I was gonna say though, the thing. Going back to the younger artists asking advice, because I kind of run into that a lot. And what I notice is, everybody wants that answer, like I was saying.
Yeah. But
it's a lot like you said, where even when you look at other people and stuff, because I always looked at like, Frazetta, Bertie Wrights, and all my heroes and stuff like that. And you try to sort of go into comics in the same way they do. But it's like you can't even sort of even do that, because you can learn things, but it's by the same token, like you said, you can't sort of engineer just the happy accidents that came along, that sort of made them who they are and made their careers. And it also, everything changes. The market changes. We're in a whole different scenario in like publishing and stuff now that maybe they didn't have to deal with, or they did have to deal with, you know what I mean? They had their own set of problems and they solved it in their own way. Yeah. And that's why it's so freaking hard. Like when somebody goes, well, how do you get into comics or something? Or how do you get into, like you said, illustration, or even like selling fan art or something like that? There's still a lot of stuff that just is up to, it's up to you and the way you handle your problems that you run into. And it's hard to give an answer to that kind of stuff. I just wanted to point that out anyway.
Yeah, no, like Corey in the chats, let me kind of pull this up here, but it's like he was saying the irony of people wanting to do creative for a living because they dislike math. They want to create the equation to creative success. And that's a really good point. It's not like a math problem where it's like, it's black. Like the beauty of math is it's like black and white and provable and reversible. And that's not art. I also wanted to kind of highlight this one just because, Scott, so is the tier from the first achievement unlocked?
Yeah, it's the first achievement. Yeah, I saw Ryan was leaving a lot of comments. I was going to get to him, but we've just been like carrying on the conversation. So
and then like, I guess what I'm getting at is like, the common thread is just kind of like it's kind of what I don't know. I think it's what you were talking about, Jeff, where like your impetus, like why did you keep trying after going back to construction, or after going back to painting, or after building like a fairly lucrative like painting thing? Like, why go back? What's the thing?
I mean, I think like with me, I think it's like a personal answer to everybody. But to me, like I really think that it is like stories. It's not so much like comics necessarily, or animation, or painting, or whatever. It's kind of like I have this idea of like what I wanted to do when I was like 14 or something.
Yeah.
And I still haven't sort of accomplished that. And so like even when I get kind of successful in one area or another, it's like it's just like this nagging bug, because like I think another thing, is like I left my job, and I have been able to sort of keep going with commissions and fan art, or whatever you want to call it. And at some point I was just like, well, I can't even stay here. I still have to kind of make a comic, or now I'm trying to do animation, and who knows what's going to come after this.
Yeah.
It's just like this nagging bug where you're like, I want what I want. I mean, it sounds so selfish and just like entitled and everything, but that's just kind of what it is,
Yeah. I get that though, because I share that. It's like by all means, like I don't have a lot of reason to like get home from like a position a lot of people I work with like want,
Right.
like I'm good, but I'm not. Like I really have to tell stories, and I will fight for it. Like that's the kind of weird thing. And there's, we've talked about this before on Artcasters, but I also think there's like an element of all of us that like if we could kind of live without that, it might be kind of like, thank you, like, cool. And I can be like, because and I don't want to say that like as like a sob story, like feel bad for creatives, because it's the funnest, coolest thing to do. But it is weird how that just desire to like storytell and like kind of have your own authorship like over something like just pervades like everything. And so
because that's a good example too, because I see a lot of guys, from when I did stop motion, especially, that were good at stop motion, went into sort of working for Leica and things like that, and it's like disappeared off their own projects, and then now I've kind of come back. What I mean? Sort of like, and you're on like major motion pictures doing what you supposedly love and all this kind of stuff. Why dump out of that and go back into your garage and try to make your own movie again? But I think it is the same thing. It's like, that's not the dream, it's not necessarily the dream to be, I don't know, third assistant on, whatever. It's like you want to be like the George Lucas of your Star Wars, or whatever, you want to tell your story. And I don't know, man, that's the tough road.
Yeah, it's weird. Okay, so like when my wife and I like moved to Portland, right? We knew Graham Annabelle, and I knew him from alternative comics or whatever, like back when they existed.
Yeah.
And they were run by like Jeff Mason, and he helped me distribute my first comic. And so like I tabled with this guy, and then when my wife and I were looking to move at Portland, I just kind of reached out to him, was like, hey, can we like stay with you and like check it out, because we were like broke college students,
Oh, okay.
And it's weird because at the time he was working on Coraline like as like an assistant, or like a key. I think he was one of the key animators there, and he had worked at like Lucasfilm, and he has this like crazy resume, and since has like gone on to like direct stuff. But it's like, what's weird was when we hung out with him, he didn't want to talk about Leica. He didn't want to talk about claymation. He didn't want to talk about like what he was in the middle of, which is like pretty epic and awesome. And that's like claymation and cool. And yet like he'd want to talk about like Grickle, which is like his own thing. And like, so he'd work like 16-hour days, like at Leica, and then like come back and like work like 6 hours on this comic that like less people were into than
Wow.
Coraline, you know, right? Like,
Yeah.
isn't that, I find that through thread like so weird that like the guys who you think would be like,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm there, are like, no, I want to talk about my thing. And you're like,
Yeah.
but your thing, like, you know what I mean? But so what I guess, like for people who want to kind of pursue their dreams, I do think you need a bit of that. And I don't think that can be taught, or like, I don't think somebody's going to like watch this and be like be able to like access that thing. It's like, it has to be there. It's like that ache to get that done. Like that was really frustrating when I taught college, you know, was like, it's like, you can't teach that. You can't teach that, like that desire to like the thing where it's like, if you get punched in the face, you're going to get back up. And it's just because you like literally have to. That's a hard thing to teach people, you know, but that is a through line to all the artists, you know, you were mentioning in like comics, you know, it's like, there's no through line where you could like replicate their careers, but that's a through line, you know. It's like Steve Ditko was just making mini comics to like his last breath, and like half of them, you know, some of them were selling in like the hundreds, and this is a guy who at his peak was doing comics that were selling like 300,000 a month.
Yeah, and Will Eisner, he drew right to the end. You know, a lot of guys like that.
So you wonder, like, I mean, you have to wonder, like, you know, the second, like, why, you know, but I do think that's got to be the through line to kind of pursuing your dreams. It's like, it's a double-edged sword in a sense, because it comes with a cost, but the reward is really cool.
I don't know. Is it the reward though? I wonder that, because I really find that it's like kind of the journey, and I wonder if you're like that too, just from hearing you talk on the show. You know, it's like the problem solving, and you know, because I when I finish something, I don't get that kind of. I get it sometimes, a little bit of an endorphin kind of thing, but it's like I'm almost on to the next project before I even get the last one done. It just seems to be like I just like the fight of it. I don't like, you know, the end of it for some reason.
That's actually a really good point. What about like Scott? Do you feel that at all? Like when you finish something, you're just like,
well, like what you're saying. Well, also with the reward, like Jeff's, I think I agree with Jeff that he says it's a journey. I mean, there's things along the way, like, oh, I accomplished this or I accomplished that, but I don't know that there's ever a finish line, or there's ever. I mean, it seems like it's constantly like a struggle. There may be milestones and things like that. But you know, the goal changes if you happen to hit something that you've been wanting to do. I mean, it's never ending. You've got to keep pushing and keep, you know. And with me, I mean, things change all the time. I mean, right now I'm trying to. It's like a whole new endeavor with, you know, me trying to use my art. You know, trying to break into all this Amazon stuff. And before that, and still, I mean, and I still try to, you know, I want to keep up on the other stuff, like when I'm the digital products. I mean, I had some success with the Comic Maker Toolkit, but then, you know, you launch things like I launched some fonts and they don't really do much. So you never know. I mean, you just got to keep, some things work, some things don't, but it's like, you know.
Yeah, but like the interesting thing is like you have had things that kind of did work.
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel like this elation at the moment it works, or is it more like
oh yeah, like when I found out that the Comic Maker Toolkit was on Design Cuts and it was their #1 selling product for like 4 days straight, I was like blown away, because this thing was unproven. They're especially, I mean, I knew I could put it on my website and I can sell it to the people on my YouTube that watch my YouTube channel that are into comics and stuff. But I didn't know that if I was like, are the people that shop on like these creative marketplaces, are they going to care about something like this? And it turns out they did, because there wasn't anything else like that. And since then, I've seen a couple other people try to do something similar, but you know, it helps to kind of be the first, you know, and you find that with almost any industry, you know. So and that's kind of why I'm, for the most part, when I do my digital products, it's all comics related, because that's sort of the niche or niche, or however you want to pronounce it, that I'm going into. So
yeah.
And even though I know, like with the KDP and all that stuff, I know eventually, I've got some other ideas that are kind of more mass appeal and things like that. But so far, the books that I put out are, they're, this stuff, comics related stuff,
Yeah.
So, that's just that's obviously what I like to do. So I'm trying to take my love of comics, because, Jeff could probably, well, both of you guys can pretty much attest to this, that comics don't really make a lot of money, but you can take your love of comics and you can find other ways to make it work, whether it's making videos or products or whatever. At least that's kind of the road that I'm going down. So
yeah,
I don't know if I kind of segued away from the topic or not.
No, I like it. I don't mind segueing. It's fun.
I think I didn't mean to interrupt, but it's like, I think one thing though is it's not so much like, because there are moments, I mean, where I don't know, you stop and realize, you know what I mean? Sometimes like you win an award or something, or something like that, and you kind of stand up for something and go like, yeah, I did that. You know what I mean? There is sort of this contented moment where you're kind of proud of yourself for pulling it off. I think the majority of your time, it is sort of the next thing, and that's why we're like comic book artists and stuff like that, because you're just trying to create that thing that you want to create, like that vision in your mind, and get as close to it as you can, and that's like hard to do. That's probably what drives us, because you're just trying to get there, and if it isn't this project, it's the next project, and after that it's the next one.
Like I struggle and a lot, and it's something I'm really going to try to, like, with this comic quarterly stories, which I think I'm going to call 2 stories on faith and mental illness. I think this is a better title. But
how come you're so for that faith and mental illness kind of thing? Just out of curiosity. I didn't mean
it's to. It's just kind of the themes,
Okay.
It's kind of the themes.
When I see a comic, and I've read a good chunk of it, I haven't read the end because I'm just kind of waiting for finish it up. I don't want to read the whole thing, but it's like, it reminds me a lot of Chester Brown and Palookaville and Joe Matt's work and all those guys, Craig Thompson. And
I like it.
To me, right. But I mean, to me, like, when you think of, like their work, it's like, to me, that's bio work. You know what I mean?
100%. Yeah.
Yeah. But, it's like, they don't advertise it as that. And sometimes I wonder, because you're always with the faith and mental illness thing.
Yeah.
I don't mean to critique. I probably
I want to hear it
publicly, right?
I love critiques.
But sometimes, like, when you say that, it almost sounds like a pamphlet or something. Like, here's a pamphlet on mental health. Read it up and tell me what you think.
That's true. That could come across as like insincere and not.
Well, not insincere, but it to me it's a story. It's like a dramatic story. This could be like a movie. Yeah. And it would be about somebody that has a problem, like say like Beautiful Mind, or is that what that was called? That Russell Crowe movie, where he was crazy, but it's like, it's called something different. And even though it's about that, it's about, it's about a part of life, I
like that.
I think you could do both, Josh. I think you could do my story of faith and mental illness, I mean, as a subtitle, but then you probably don't want to repeat story. So 2 stories, my journey of faith and mental illness, or something like that,
No, I like the idea though, because you're right. Like it's like half of the intent, actually the majority of the intent of it is just to kind of create authentic slice of life, kind of confessional comics, and that pitch does kind of make it sound like a pamphlet, like you're going to get like a chick tract or something. Well, and that's definitely not what this is.
Yeah, I mean, it's just something I noticed.
No, it's a really good observation. I appreciate it.
Okay, I'll shut up.
I like it, and I'm actually like, I'm weird, but I like lean into that, because to me, like, my goal is to effectively communicate it, and that's one of my weaknesses. Like, I'm terrible at pitching.
I know, and I am too. You got to talk about your own story. It's so freaking hard to, like, tell people what it's about, you know?
Yeah, because I'm so stuck in like, I mean, that was step one, right? Was like coming up with like the story arc, but it's like now I'm in the weeds, and so it's really hard to kind of step back and be like, wait, what's the forest again? Like I can't boil it down, and that was so. I actually think, I don't know, I'm probably gonna annoy the hell out of you on Facebook now, just being like, what do you think about this title? Because actually I am. It's still in flux, like the way I'm gonna promote it, the way I'm, gonna like, even the back matter, like I'm gonna probably give to a couple friends and try to get.
I think that's a great idea. Get yourself out and let somebody else tell what they think the story is. Because like that's hard to write when you're the one who wrote it, you know?
Yeah. I've always been terrible at that. And so like, even comparing it to like, it's always good in a pitch to like compare it to another film or something. And like, I never do, even though I know that's like something you're supposed to do. So I really appreciate that. Actually, that's good.
Well, I'm looking forward to it. I mean, I love those kinds of comics, and it kind of bums me that they're not at the comic shops anymore. You know, it doesn't seem to be like there. I don't quite know where they've moved to, but I was like, that was like the cream of the crop in my opinion of comics, and it seems to have like almost died or something. It's weird.
Yeah. So I mean, this actually kind of does tie to what we've been talking about too, because it's like, I mean, that's my dream, is to make one of those comics. Yeah. And the byproduct of it, like you were saying, it's like I'd be happy if I had readers, but to me, like the more like the goal, the finish line that I'm going to feel joy at is the second it's in print, you know?
Yeah.
Whether like 2 people read it or not, which is something I try to be aware of myself with, because that can be dangerous in the sense of like, you have to hustle and promote the hell out of yourself.
Yeah.
To really get people to look. Like you kind of have to be the screaming guy going, look at me. Like it's the same with like a gig. You like I'm in this silly little band and we're playing like tomorrow, right? Like, and we're opening, but it's fun and we'll probably get free beer, and that's awesome. But like when you play a show, if you have like no confidence and you don't sell that show, you could be the most talented musician in the world and people will tune out when they see you live, unless you're famous, right? And so there's an element of sales to like everything you do. And that's my weakest point, because of what you just described, where it's like the journey of pursuing the dream is it's the challenge and the puzzle. But once the puzzle's kind of complete, the commercial stuff gets really hard to stay engaged in, although it's really rewarding when you do. But it's really hard to stay engaged. Like it's fun and exciting. Like YouTube is a good example. It's fun and exciting to like edit and make really great videos. It's really annoying to like have to hashtag it and like get the proper tagging and do all the grunt work, you know?
Yeah.
That's the part that like I suck at, and I always have. So I have to like force I don't know. What about you, Jeff? Because like,
I know. And that's why I know where you're coming from, because I'm kind of the same way.
Yeah.
I mean, I find nothing like more annoying that, like, you know, when you go onto Facebook and they throw that post, like some post that you did like 3 years ago, that this is your most commented post of all time, you know?
Oh.
And you're like, what? This is like some old piece I did like 5 years ago. Who cares? Get this thing out of my way, you know?
Yeah, and then like there is a part when you finish something you're proud of, you kind of don't want to sell it. You just want to be like, it's good. Just read it. Like it's good. Like it, you know, but that's not a really great sales. Like if I went to a car manufacturer or like a car dealer, right? And I was like, I'm thinking about this car, and they're like, it's good, you should buy it. And you're like, well, why is it good? And they're like, it's just good. Trust me. It's just, you know, just buy it, get in it. And it's like, well, what does it have in it? No, it's just good. Trust me. I know. Like, well, why should I trust you? I don't know you, you know? And that's exactly my predicament, where I'm like the guy who's like, No, I know it's good. You should read it. And it's like, how do I get people in the car so they can know it's good? You know what I mean? It's a hard angle.
Well,
And
you did the first step, which is you wrote the thing. You got it done, you got it out there, which that's a huge thing that like a whole bunch of people never get to.
Yeah. And
now it's like the second step is publish it. And then it's going to be what it's going to be, whatever that's going to be. And then it's like you gotta go on to the next one, and you know what I mean. You can keep pushing this one at the same time,
Hell yeah.
I mean, that's my take on it. I don't know. Scott's probably nah, Jeff. That's not quite how you do it.
Well,
but
I think ways to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it ties back to like like when you were building what you built, like, which by the way, I don't think any of us are like at a point where we're like, yes, this is the perfect scenario. And like, but we're all making a living doing creative work for a living. And that's like cheating the odds to be able to do. And so like what do you think outside of like the drive we talked about? That's like, you can't, you kind of can't fake that. Right. What do you feel is like the most valuable thing that you have that allowed it to kind of happen, or any movement to happen,
Ooh, God, that's because I almost feel like any way I answer that, I'm just going to come off like super cocky.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah, it's a tough one to answer anything that's not right. but I don't think I guess what I'm getting at is like, and you gotta talk about your positives too.
Right.
I was not cocky
in an honest way. I mean, I honestly think that like what kind of separated me from other guys, because there was other guys with dreams and stuff where I worked. I mean, for one thing, I think the work ethic. I think you can't do it unless you're willing to go home and stay up till 3 o'clock in the morning and then get up at 6 the next day, go to work and do it again and do that your whole life. It's not even like that's a 1,000 hours mastery course or something. No, that's your life. You're just sleep deprived forever. Yeah. I think the hard work is part of it, but I think honestly it's like and like I said, it just sounds cocky, but I feel like it's just the nerve to do it.
Yeah, it's
like just the nerve to just walk out the door and everybody go like, well, what? How you gonna pay your bills tomorrow? I don't know. I'll see you later. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's what it boiled down to. Like the 2 main times I did it, that's kind of what it boiled down to. And then you're faced with like, how are you going to pay your bills next week? And then you freaking, you pull every trick out of the hat that you got. And, and luckily I was able to do it. So
yeah,
I don't know.
No, that doesn't sound cocky to me. It sounds just like, because I relate to that. It's like like especially when you're starting out and you're trying to do freelance, like there are so many people who are like, yeah, you'll be looking for a job, and like it's weird how it sparks something in people who are used to like and I'm coming at this from a standpoint of somebody who like I work in an office now, like I do corporate, sometimes super fun, but it's like I do the in-house thing. But what's interesting is like the people who've only done the in-house thing kind of only see that as a possibility.
Yeah.
And so it's just like it's like this absurd kind of I'm trying to I don't know. I think to someone who's like so programmed in like corporate environments, it's hard for them to fathom that like I remember having this conversation with multiple people who were working in house jobs they hated. And they were like, well, how do you do, like, what are you going to do about health insurance? And I was like, yeah, I've got Blue Cross. And they're like, what? Yeah. And I'm like, yeah, you can just contact health insurance companies and get your own health insurance. It's more expensive. It sucks.
have health insurance, you know? It's
yeah. Or like, and I went without health insurance for like 6 years, you know, and
yeah. And everybody
Yeah.
goes like, "You're crazy. That's what if you had a heart attack?" Well,
and you're
I
like,
guess-
well, what if you have a heart attack, dude?
you know?
You know,
I
and
know.
then like, here's the other thing. What if where you work gives you a heart attack? Like, is that worth it? Like, it's like this absurd thing that people just can't like. I guess I'm just saying it's like, it's actually not that different of a scenario than in-house. Like, you're still at like a corporation still can fold, you know?
And that happens a lot too. Absolutely.
100%.
Numerous times.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And when you're freelance, like, you know, you can get a cushy in-house gig for a bit, and then like the next day they're like, we're caught up, bye. You know, like it's not a we're in a world where, like, you know, things are less stable than like the sidewalk you walk on makes it seem like they are, you know, like it's like there's a lot of so I think that's part of it, is just being able to face that and face like uncertainty in the face and be like, okay, well, I'm gonna try.
Which, you know, like, yeah, absolutely. And I think too, when I was younger, it's kind of funny because like when I was younger, I was more scared of it. Like when I worked in comics, I got a comic, you know, job, and I had some money coming in, and then I left my job. You know what I mean? I had no, you know, I was way too scared to be like jumping off and not have a job when I was younger, and I was in the perfect position to do that, you know, because when you're younger, you can totally fail and live through it easily.
Oh yeah.
You know, because you always got people to fall back on. You got your parents and stuff.
Yeah, and the health insurance thing is a good example. That's like exactly the time you actually don't need it as bad. You know,
your kid or your wife's not going to get sick, and you're going to feel horrible for what you just pulled off. You know, where you lost their insurance. But anyway, like when I was younger, I was a lot more scared, and then when, you know, I got older, I don't know what changed, or maybe I had it in me back then and I didn't realize it, but I got more of when I'd be at work and I'd be listening to, you know, because when you're at work and you're in that situation and everybody's working and everybody's getting a check, everybody's sort of, a lot of times they were kind of like, well, we have a good job, you know. When you start talking about this kind of stuff, it always goes to like, well, we're lucky to have a job, you know what I mean? There's like people worse off than us and all that stuff, and you're like, yeah, but there's people better off than us, you know?
Yeah.
And nobody wants to, you know, when it really comes down to it, like, let's right now walk out that door. It's almost like quitting smoking. I remember I used to have a buddy that would just smoke, and I'd be like, let's fucking quit smoking, like right now. You know what I mean? Like, no more smoking after the next minute, you know? No, I can't do that. You know, and it's always, oh, someday. And of course, you know, I don't know if you ever stop smoking, but it's the same thing with like work. As soon as it like comes down, push comes to shove, and it's like, okay, we're leaving like this minute. Then it's like, oh, well, yeah, we're lucky to have this job, and you know, there's people out there that are homeless. There's blah blah blah, like the health insurance. I hear that all the time. Well, what are you going to do for health insurance? You know, and all that stuff is. I mean, what it actually is, because most of us don't need health insurance 99% of the time. It's like, it's honestly, it's just the fear. You know, they don't want to freaking face up to like the scariness of it, you know?
And the weird thing is like it's kind of an illusion of scariness. And I can say that from experience. And I will say some of the health insurance stuff isn't crazy, because like I think it was like 6 years into my time like running my own freelance, you know, thing.
Yeah.
I had like a tooth thing. And like dental work without insurance is a freaking nightmare. And so I like ended up having to go to like a dental like college and like have like some weird student do the work, because I had like an abscess, you know, and it's like it was going to cost like $20,000 or like $1,000 for doing, and that would be like a $50 to $100 procedure under insurance. And that's when I was uninsured, right? which very quickly made me start like researching like getting your own insurance like as a freelancer, which is possible. It's not for everyone, but so that reality is there. But here's the thing, that reality is no different than your job, because your job could go. And like the benefit and the negative of like kind of running your own thing is like you actually get the rewards of it. Like you do marketing, you get successful, you get the reward. You get something in an annual, you get the credit. Like, and it gets to it starts building this cyclical thing that actually makes it sustainable. But without that element of risk, which you're already in anyway, I don't know. It's a weird thing, where it's like does that make sense?
Yeah, it totally makes sense. And that's a great point that you bring up about, when you work for yourself, you literally don't have a paycheck. And, even though you could say, oh, that's fucking scary, what that means is it's like you're making your own check. So it's like, if you can figure out how to make $1 million tomorrow, you know what I mean? Then you can do it. I'm not saying that that's possible, but like, let's say, you can figure out how to make $1,000 tomorrow, which I think it's possible at times in art. You know what I mean? Those good things come along and you're like, whoa, that's a bunch of money. And that didn't take me very long. And it's like, if you're working for a company or something for, $20 an hour or something, well, you made $20 an hour, just like the day you didn't make $1,000, And that's what I love about being on your own, is it really is kind of, it's up to you. It's like, you want to get up and do something and make that money, then you can do it. And like, nobody can stop you. There's no boss to like come along and say, no, that's not right or whatever. It's just all on you. And that's what I like about it,
Yeah, and I will say this just from experience, like as an art director at an in-house scenario who did that for like close to 15 years, right? Prior to being an art director, it's like the one thing I'm thankful for that experience every day, because regardless, it like if you're gonna do in-house, you should live as a freelancer for a bit. Yeah. Like regardless, because when you're a freelancer and you have to pay overhead and you have to pay electric and you have to pay those dental bills and all those extra expenses that are being covered by a corporation are on you. I give you a respect for people who built that, like who built the business, because you have to build it. Yeah. And so like, what's interesting is my experience is like people who have worked freelance value in-house positions more if they're in a position where that's what they want. And people who haven't tend to have that ache to do it. And then there's people who do it and like have absolutely no desire to end up back in like corporate environments, which makes perfect sense. Like I was the reverse of you, Jeff, in the sense of like, for me, it was like, I was like a young, stupid kid. And I was like, I had no backup. I had no savings. I was working in-house, getting paid pretty well, doing illustration, like pretty quickly out of college. And I was just like, I can't stand this. There's intercoms, there's like phones, there's protocols. Like I hate this. And I quit and just went freelance, and like literally had like 2 clients or 3 clients at the time. And like, I had no idea what I was getting into. The roof, like the floor dropped out for me. And weirdly enough, that floor just disappearing, like motivated me to make it work. And then I'm curious if we share this, but like for me, one of the things that made it successful was also, I'm really stubborn. Like, I don't know if I think cartoonists have that in common. Like you kind of can't, if you give in really easily to difficulty, kind of dissuading you, I think just the act of finishing a comic is really going to be hard, Yeah,
I agree with that for sure. I'm definitely a guy that does not like to be wrong, even though I'm not like an arguer, but it's like, there's something about my own thing where I don't like to be wrong. And I will can like, do all sorts of gymnastics to sort of try to figure out a way that I'm right. And I think that definitely can keep you motivated and going. And like you were saying, like the floor dropped out from underneath you. I think that's a great way of putting it. I always say like my back goes up against the wall when that happens. you know, like the times of my life when I think about that happening, that's when I turn it on. I can't sort of tap into that without that happening.
Yeah,
But
I'm
like,
the same way.
yeah, when you put me in that situation, it's hard to get me there. You know what I mean? It's like I can get out of a lot of shit when that happens. And like I've done it, you know, and proved it to myself a bunch of times. But I think that, yeah, I mean, it's almost like the best kind of, you know, now it's going to sound goofy, but it's just like the best kind of gift you can give yourself is putting yourself in that situation a few times and just see what you can actually do, because it was more than what I thought I could.
Yeah, and I mean, like I said, it's advantageous for both scenarios, because like if you want to be like, if anyone out there is under the illusion that you can run as an art director in a corporate environment without being comfortable with like getting in a fight, you're out of your mind. Like, you literally are going to be putting out, like, most of your job is to put out fires. And so it's like you have to be able to lean into conflict and like face really scary, dire situations where your job is on the line, like constantly. And I've met a lot of art directors, and that's one common thread. It's even at the best industries, because inevitably, you know, just like we were talking about with the conflict in ourselves about sales versus art, it's a hard thing to navigate. It's hard when you finish the creative to get into the sales. That conflict's always there. And so it's like, that's, you know, it's if you can't kind of end up in a scenario where like your back's against the wall and you can fight your way out, or at least die trying, you know, I don't know. Maybe that's the thing about like the dream pursuit, you know. It's like, I think you have to have some fight in you. Like for me, I'm like really patient person.
Well,
I'm
to
argumentative.
me, yeah, you doing that book for 5 years is that though? That's a 5-year fight right there, you know. And you're not doing that. I know you keep saying you're not going to make money at it, but you didn't do it to not make money. I guarantee you, like in the back of your mind or somewhere in your gut or whatever, you're just like hoping that this hits big and you can just, you know, this is what my job is from now on. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, yeah. But the weird thing is like, I do like, I have this thing that where I can't not fight when I'm backed in a corner.
Yeah.
And that goes back like way back. Like, you know, I dealt with bullies as a kid, and half of why I got bullied was I was that kid who just, I could not shut up. Like if somebody, you know, when like the bigger guy says the thing and you should put your head down and walk by and just be like, okay, I was not that guy. I would speak right back and I'd be half the size, you know? And so something in me, I don't know, I don't give up easily on things. Which can be a benefit or a negative thing, you know, but it's been advantageous to me in freelance, you know?
Yeah.
So, okay, why animation? Because that seems like a dream, and yet also like a crap load more investment and work. What spurred that? Is it the challenge?
No. I mean, I already did, you know, stop motion animation, and you know, so I mean, it's kind of already been an itch that I wanted to scratch, and I've tried to scratch it a few times. But the animation, I think it's spurred on now because I kind of have just sort of, you know, it's almost like what I was talking about with, well, I don't know if I was talking about it, but like when I did sketch cards or whatever, I kind of saw that I could make money online. So it gave me a plan. I was like, hey, wait a minute, there's like a window here. I can make some money here. I don't need to go to work all the time. Yeah. And so I kind of had this plan. So like now with the animation, it's almost the same kind of thing where I was doing the comic. I was pretty happy with the comic, and, you know, but, you know, I mean, I don't know if comics are like my thing necessarily. I do love them, but then I also, you know, they never seem to completely be what I want them to be. And when I had that idea to do the animated intro that I put on my Artcast here recently, it was just kind of an idea, you know what I mean? Me and this guy Mike were online just talking, and I was like, yeah, I should do an intro, and I could do it this way and this way. And we just kind of came up with this idea, and I was like, I think that could actually work, you know? Like I could just use like my art like I use for my comic and do it as an animation. And so I got all into it and I did it. And then when I saw it, I was like, well, I think I can actually make like a little show, you know. I can add, if I can get like the voices to work and a few more things to work a little bit better, I think that this could actually be like an animated thing. Like, and people wouldn't go like, oh, well, that's just you know, an animatic or something, or that's you know what I mean? They would actually look at it like a story.
Yeah.
And so that's honestly why I've kind of switched to animation, because it's more of a thing where I just have to see. I just have to see if it'll work and if I can tell a story in this style. And now that I'm sort of in it and it's rolling and I kind of feel like it is possibly going to work, I almost kind of feel like maybe this is actually what I've been kind of looking for all along, because it's sort of like animation in my style. But I don't want to talk too much because I don't know if it's really going to be what I think it is. So.
But I even think that's valuable, right? Because it's like that's that element of kind of leaning into risk. And like I'm in the same boat with my book. Like you're right about like I won't even pretend it's like a gut thing. It's like, of course I'd love it to succeed and sell like 1 million copies and be able to be like, okay, retire and just make comics, you know. but you know, I also am aware of the realities of the industry, but that doesn't mean I'm going to stop. And there's a huge part of what you're saying that like totally rings true to me, where I'm like, I want to see, like, I actually want to see it done. I want to see the book. I want to see that I can achieve it. And then I'll worry about getting the other stuff that I'd of course love to see as a byproduct.
Yeah.
But you know, I also think like, here's another thing. I know we've been going a long time, but it's like, I also think like, did you like, so the first cracks you did at kind of just being like, okay, I'm going to go full freelance, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to build my own thing. And then you had to kind of backpedal. Did you level up in art in those interms? Like in those like from the time that you gave it a shot and then you had to go back and then you gave it a shot again?
Yeah, I mean, not necessarily the first time, like, because that was sort of a weird in between thing, because I was working in comics and then I had a normal job and then I kind of tried to get back into comics. So I really didn't get anything, you know. It was just like an exercise in just like butting my head against the wall and not getting anywhere, because I didn't really have any kind of plan. So that time nothing really happened. But like when I went into doing sketch cards, especially, it really made me, because I was always the guy who didn't really finish stuff. Everything was sort of an experiment. I'm always like practicing kind of thing. But then you got to finish stuff. I think I was talking about that with somebody recently. Anyway, so like that definitely, I feel, pushed me forward. And then I also think that like this last time, where it wasn't so much about sketch cards, it was just about commissions, which are kind of the same thing, but just bigger.
Yeah.
It did the same thing, because I was painting so much and drawing so much. It, you know, your skills just get better. You know, you just get better because you're just always doing it. And then when I came back to comics, I had a lot of painting skills that I didn't have the first time I was there, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think, you know, by, you know, trying stuff and pushing yourself, you definitely learn and grow. But you also just do that naturally if you're working hard, you know?
Yeah, I want Scott's take on this too, but I had a moment where I was making comics that I kept feeling weren't kind of like aligning with the kind of comics I wanted to make.
Yeah.
And it's like a very clear moment in my memory of like having a, like, because I really admire like Chris Ware. I always talk about him on the show. You guys are obviously aware I'm fond of him. But I kept being like, how does he make these books? Like, and same with like Craig Thompson and some of the guys who are just like excellent at their craft and they do these great stories. And then I like was thinking about like how long he spends on his pages. Like no matter how good he is, like that guy's spending way over 8 hours on his pages.
Oh yeah. Yeah. There's no pay with that dude, I'm sure.
Yeah. And then I was like, well, like I was just doing the math in my head and I was like, well, so like I want my pay, like I want to have that feeling from my art. Like by the way, I don't feel like I'm Chris Ware. I want to really clarify that because I'm nowhere in his league, but the time that I started making comics that I felt better about was the time that I actually started investing the time to make the comics I wanted them to be. And like, it was like this conscious decision of like, oh wait, that's the trick. It's time. It's like, at first it was like, I don't have the skill. And then it was like, I have the skill, but I need money and I need to get the stuff out quick. Yeah. And then there was like this moment of like that, like, even when I was like professionally, that's a great learning lesson too, especially when it's your rent, you know. It's like, oh, if I spend a little more time on this, people pay a little more for it. And then also maybe they don't, but it ends up on my website and it leads to 10 more jobs instead of one. Right. Yeah. But with comics, it's like weird because I always divorced like comics and illustration in my head. And I think that's where I divorced it. It was like comics are quicker, they're looser. And then I was like, I had this moment of like, what if I did comics like I do illustrations, like take them that seriously? Yeah. And like that was a big changing point for me. But that also helped. And I think that's huge in like pursuing your dream is like you can't also forget like let's say your dream is to be an NBA player. Yeah. You better be playing basketball and you better be trying to up your game. Like it's not like, you know, just the dream alone and the like effort isn't going to get you far if you're not actually playing the game you're trying to succeed at. Right. And like, you know, for me, like my freelance career really started to grow when I started taking the quality of the art more seriously too. Yeah. You know, because initially I was kind of experimenting and you're also figuring out your style and all that. And there's a lot of learning curves, but that's a huge factor. I don't know, like Scott, did you have any moments like that? Or I kind of feel like maybe I was just a very bad artist at first. You know, by not
mine
like
was
doing
kind
my
of
absolute best every time.
With the comics. My breakthrough was kind of the opposite of you, where I was spending way too much time reworking and going over and never get anything done. And it wasn't until like when I started Young and the Dead where I had that deadline because I was doing the mini comics dump truck, and it was like an 8-page, you know, you're supposed to get to an 8-page comic. And I'm like, and the more I started getting into the story, I'm like, this is actually, I thought this was going to be a throwaway, but I'm liking the story. I think I can make a full issue. And I'm like, there's no way I'll be able to get this issue done if I'm working in the same style where I'm constantly reworking things. So I had to, because I had this process where, and I don't know, maybe your work is somewhat similar. I don't know, Josh. I've seen the way, but I know a lot of it, there is some digital elements too. But basically, I would take almost, and I know Jeff kind of does this too, because each one of his panels is a different painting. But I would do a sketch of like a panel, and then I would do another sketch of a different panel, and then I would scan all these different things in. I'd arrange them in Photoshop and clip things out and everything. Then I print it out, and then I trace over and do all this other stuff. And I would, you know, I had a lot more. I was spotting a lot more blacks and things like that, and putting a little more detail and all this other stuff. And when I finally had this realization where, you know what, I've got to kind of change my style to be a little looser, a little, you know, just a little more on the cartoony side, I guess. And that's when I started to see actual finished projects. So, because I mean, I still have people look back at some of my previous stuff and say, wow, I kind of like this stuff. There's a little more detail, and there's more, you know, there's more like shading and or not shading, but like, I don't know, more blacks and things like that. And, but I wasn't getting anything done. So I kind of
I think that's, I'm glad you brought that up, because I think that's the line, right? Because I also did have a stage where I had like maybe 10, you know, started comics that then I'd get 2 pages into and just quit, because I'd just be like, well, like I can't sustain this and it's not going to be any good. And I did have to reach a point of just like, well, I need to finish one. Like that's part of it. you know, is like you actually have to have an end date. So I think that's good you brought that up because, you know, I think in order to get to the point of what I was talking about, I actually had to like simplify the process. And even now it's like, I haven't seen all of my pages to full fruition because it's like that's literally, and we talked about that a million times. It's like Jeff, if you were to paint the absolute best paintings you could for your comic, that could literally become, you have a panel done and you're on your deathbed, you know, because you're a skilled painter. And there's also like this danger, right? Because you could overwork it. And then it could be like the ugliest painting in the world, although you spent your whole life on it, you know?
Yeah, and that's something I think I've come to realize, because especially when I was younger, man, I would like work on a piece. But as time has went by, and especially with like the comic work, I've kind of come around to being like, oh, I like the looser look, you know? Like if you look at
100%.
the early paintings, in the comic, these paintings they're a little bit more open or looser or something. And they're not quite as rendered, and I like that look. But yeah, I mean, a lot of that's like a style thing. And some people are like you know, where they're like, you know, super real, like Alex Ross, super real. I'm sure he doesn't just knock stuff out in, you know, 5 minutes. But then there's other people that are really loose, like, you know, I don't know, Charles Schultz or something, you know. And I don't know, it's just different people, I think, come up with a different answer for that.
100%. Yeah. And that's the weird thing is like, you know, it's like, I look at Schultz, especially the 50s Schultz, like, oh my gosh, like,
absolutely.
Like anybody who hasn't dipped into old Peanuts just has no idea what they're missing. And like and I love the later style too. And I think it's a really cool adaptation considering, you know, like most of that style is like I can't hold my hand steady. So I have to come up with a way to make art, you know, that's a little wobblier because my hand wobbles, you know, and it's brilliant because it's got its own style and thing. But I love that early stuff where just with like one line, it's crazy how good that stuff is. But so like, I don't think there's, and loose is good. And also it's context, right? Because it's like, I think Berserkernaut would be it would just be strange if it weren't kind of loose. It's tight and the paintings are good and there's a lot of skill in it. It's hard to work that loose and have it be that tight. I don't know if that makes sense. So it's definitely, but it's like, it's as fun as the story. Like the execution's fun, you know, and I can tell you're having fun with it. Like you're, you know, using different techniques and like, you know, and for anyone who would look at that and be like, well, Jeff couldn't do like, you know, really rendered like paintings and stuff. It's like, look at his site. Like he can work you can work a variety of depth of like, but yeah, I think that comes into play too. Like Young and the Dead would be strange if I would find that, because that's a fun comic, and it would be really weird if all those kids looked super real, like hyper real. Like it might actually be counterintuitive to the story, you know? So I think that comes into play too, where it's like, what story are you telling, you know? Because
I think so. It's like, you know, it kind of fits. Like Chris Ware, you know, it's interesting that you know you like him a lot, and you know his style is very different than yours. It's very
100%.
simplistic, but it's complex. You know, it's like the way he draws. Very simple, but I mean, they're in such a, I mean, like a complex sort of setting and page design and all that stuff. You know, it's really very tight.
100%.
So,
and that's a whole different spectrum, right? It's like a lot of people wouldn't see that influence except if they're noticing the stuff the stuff I really pick up from him is like pacing and timing and like breathing and like repeated paneling, and it's more the paneling and the thinking behind it, and then the investment in designing it. And I think, and like,
and I think the overall feeling of the book, you know what I mean? Like, you know, like your book it's unusual. It's not something that like anybody else is going to pick up from anybody else. And that's like Chris Ware. And then I think too, like, the size of your pages in a way, these massive pages, it's wild to see them done. There was really no reason that you had to do it that way, but you just wanted to do it that way. And that's interesting. It makes it interesting.
Yeah. And like, that was another thing too, where I was working at scale and just like, I just didn't like the look. And then I was looking at all the guys I liked, like the visual look of, and I was like, oh, they're working twice as big. That's why it's good. Like, not that this is why it's good, but it's like, I'd look at these pages at scale and be like, how did they get that detail? And it's like, oh, okay.
I remember that when I first went out to San Diego, and you see a Jack Kirby or see a John Buscema piece, and you're like, it kind of explains a lot of it. I mean, it's super impressive, but you kind of understand a little bit more how it works because they're bigger. You know what I mean? And a lot of times they're inked so much more loosely than you ever thought they would be,
Oh yeah. And like, what's weird is some of the guys you think ink loose, you look at the originals and it's like crisp. Like R. Crumb is one of the most skillful like renderers, and yet his stuff when it's reproduced looks kind of sloppy. And I don't mean that in a negative way. It just looks kind of gritty. But it's like when you see his pages, it's like the ink work's like delicate and beautiful and like tender. And it's like, it's the weirdest thing. I think, so I think that's a thing too, is like, but size also has to do with what result you want, right? Like, cause like, can you imagine Mouse if that had been drawn not at scale? Like it's good cause it was drawn pretty close to scale.
Yeah. And
so it's like, it's got that like loose, like gritty, just kind of like awesome, like line work. And, so yeah. But I do think that's one of those things of like the dream thing. It's important to think like, what is your dream? Like, is your dream to like, be Saul Bass or something, right? Then it might be smart to like look at what it is about Saul Bass that you like. And like, you know what I mean? Like, is it that it's conceptual? Is that the thing? Okay, cool. Then focus on concept when you're growing your work, and like start hitting that hard, like a gym, I don't know.
No, I think that's a good, because that's what drives you. I think your heroes a lot of times, that's how you learn. You look at these guys that can do it better than you and try to figure out how they do it, things like that.
And it's scary because you open that can of worms and you'll figure out one hero, and then like a whole world of heroes they were influenced by open up, and you're like, crap. It's an unending.
Yeah, I remember that being all into, Frazetta and Wrightson and, all this beautiful line work and stuff. And then bam, like Frank Miller comes in. I'm like, well, fuck, how does that work? He's completely different. And eventually like Bill Sienkiewicz comes in and I'm like, oh, I love this guy's stuff, but that doesn't make any sense with, Bernie Wrightson. And all that stuff, that's just that's the learning, that's going to college right there, studying like guys like that, and then bringing your own work into it,
100%.
Yeah.
Man, so the pursuit of the dream, I think we've all talked about like it's not necessarily going to be all candy and cupcakes and amazing. Like, there's definitely bumps in the road, even after like success, like I had my most successful year as a freelance artist, like with my t-shirts, like featured in design annuals and stuff like that. And the next year I literally made the least amount of money I had made since like I was in high school, and it can flip on you and fluctuate like that. And that can happen. Yeah. But I mean, that's the reality of it, not for everyone, but I'm just saying it's possible.
I know. And that's like that business too, which I know every business has their ups and downs, but and like that, those web-based kind of things, I mean, it was really scary, especially in the beginning, but they're still like that, where, things hit and then they kind of die off, or, other factors come into play, I guess.
Yeah, and it's, you know, but like the thing that's so it's not a like unbumpy road, but it's like I think there's a drive with it, and it's like, while sometimes I do envy people who don't have kind of a particular dream outside of just the day to day. Like there are days, especially days like, you know, when it's hard to find work and stuff like that, where it's like, I kind of am like, I wish I had gone into like, I don't know, I'm trying to think of something, but I've had a million of those days where I'm like, why art? Like, why did I do? Because there will come a point in art, and this is something to be aware of, and it's kind of awesome, but we're like, this is kind of the only thing, you know, like for me, I don't have a lot of options at this point in my life because I'm kind of an expert at like graphic design, illustration, and that's kind of my wheelhouse. Like I'm not going to be the best builder, you know, like I'll do an okay job, but I'm not, you know, it would be hard for me to switch careers, you know?
Yeah.
But there's also kind of a coolness to that, because when I really think about it, I don't think I'd want a different career. Like I like drawing more than bricklaying, you know?
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, like bricklaying's awesome and respectable and cool, but like I'm thankful I don't have to like sweat in the sun.
Yeah.
To make a living. Like I like, my mind is the thing and my hand, that's it. Like it's there's not a ton of labor to it outside of just exhaustion and possibly repetitive hand injuries. But yeah, so like to me, I think what's weird is pursuing the dream is I don't know. I guess I don't really know how to conclude it. What do you think? Like, what do you think the result is? Do you think it's worth it? And do you think, like, because I do think back and I'm like, I have accomplished most of the dreams that I had for myself. Because I think the main one was just like, I want to make a living as an artist.
Yeah.
But I also like, I always, and we've talked about this, but it's like, I always feel like discontentment with, because I want to try something else. Like I want to, like, for instance, what you just described about animation, I want to crack that open and try that, you know? And then if I try it and kind of get it, I'll probably want to crack something else open and try it, like in art. So like I don't know, what do you think about like the pursuit of dreams? Like I feel like, I don't know. I want to know your thoughts. You too, Scott.
Yeah, like, is it worth it? Is that kind of like the question? Like, you know, would you do it again and all that kind of thing? Or
yeah.
I mean, I think it's 100% worth it in my own life. I would say that everybody's got to answer it for themselves. I'd say it's 100% worth it. But like, I mean, monetarily and things like that, no, you know, I mean, it's almost like a curse in a way, because it's like, I really haven't ever, you know, like a lot of people I know, you know, that I grew up with and stuff like that, they go on to like have like real careers, you know, or not real careers, but you know what I'm saying? Mine's a real career. But it's like they get successful. They start companies and they, you know, go on vacation and stuff and, you know, have money and have nice houses. And I'm still just struggling away, you know. And so like in that sense, like the money wise and things like that, it's totally not worth it. But that part of it just, I guess, doesn't matter, I guess, because I just keep going. And, but yeah, I mean, it's like, I just think to your own personal, you know, mental health or whatever, then yeah, to me, it's absolutely, you know, worth it. So I guess that's my answer.
I love that. That's great.
Yeah.
Scott, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I probably have to agree with Jeff. I'm kind of still determined to make it worth it as far as the money angle and everything. But you know, it's, for me, I can't really see myself doing anything else. It's what I love to do. So I'll do my best to make it work. And, you know, who knows? I mean, I've still hopefully got a few more years on this earth that you know, maybe I could make something happen in a big way. Or like I said, I mean, it's even if it's what it is now, I mean, I'm still, you know, I'm enjoying everything I'm doing, and I'd rather do this than, you know, go work a day job or whatever. So,
yeah. I love it. Yeah, like for me, I feel like I think it's important to have these roadmaps because, like I said, when you hit bumps in the road, right? It's good to have like when you're able to think clearly, it's good to have like a map. And I only say that because like anybody who's like wanting to like has that thing Jeff was talking about, Scott's talked about, I've talked about, that like ache, you're gonna do it. You're gonna do it, like regardless. So you will do it. Like there's no one who can stop you. It is so. I think it's important to kind of realize that, like to go like, is that your end result? If your end result is money, there are better pursuits. And I heard that in school from people, and I was like, yeah, but I'll be the one to make tons of money, you know. And we'd all love to be rolling in money and success and stuff.
I wish I could be as I was in school, you know.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, everybody's gonna fail, but like maybe 2 people. I was like, yeah, that'll be me. I'll be the one going through.
Yeah.
You also consider the time when we were trying to break into comics. Most of us, I mean, that was the time of like you see like these young kids like, you know, Rob Liefeld and stuff, and they're millionaires,
like
and
rock stars. Yeah, they're driving like weird, like crazy, like $1 billion cars. Like what the hell? That was a weird time. But I don't think money makes me happy. I think money is necessary to an extent. Like, you know, I got a kid to feed, and all that.
Yeah. Like pay bills. That's like.
But I've never been somebody who's like, at some point in my life, I want to have visited every country and visited every state. That like, sure, that would be fun. But that's never been like a dream, like outside, like more than like to me, if I could travel to every state in the country or finish a graphic novel and be stuck where I am, I'd rather have the finished graphic novel. That's my weird personality.
Yeah.
So like, I think like, so I'd agree. Like, I think it's worth it. I just think, yeah, I mean, I definitely think it's worth it. And I've met plenty of people who like have like their, you know, camper and like all the tools and like the big garage and like the, you know, den, and they're miserable. And then like they'll be weirded out because like they don't want to talk about work. They want to talk about football. And I'm like, but I want to talk about like, you know, this weird technique with inking that's really cool. You know, I'm not saying that's everyone, but I'm just saying like I think it's worth it. I think it's worth it because I think otherwise you have that thing of like I could have. I don't know.
Don't you think though, Josh, that most people though go that route? Because it's like I rarely find somebody who's crazy enough to go the other way. You know, like I mean a lot of people are sort of like. You know, they're almost like waiting for retirement to do their comics or something, you know?
Yeah.
And you're like, well, are you even going to have the desire? And also, are you going to live long enough and all that stuff, you know? And I don't know. I almost think that's the one. You don't see a lot of people walking off their job, taking a big risk, or, you know, I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I have friends who think I'm crazy for playing in rock bands because I'm almost 40.
Yeah.
And we're just doing it for fun. We're not trying to get signed or anything, you know?
Yeah.
But it's fun.
Yeah.
It's fun. And I invest time in it because I like making stuff. I like making music. and not like covers, because we could actually do better if we were doing covers, you know, because that's kind of the thing.
Yeah.
But I like post-hardcore and shoegaze and all this weird stuff, and it's like I caught myself in that moment, like while I was fulfilling that art thing. Part of why I started that was like having that moment of like, wait a minute, I'm being that guy with music, where I'm like, well, maybe when I'm retired or whatever. And I was like, wait a minute, no, the time's now. Like, songs don't write themselves, albums don't just appear, comics don't just drop on your lap that you finished.
Yeah.
You know, art doesn't make itself. So it's like you kind of it's like kind of crap or get off the pot kind of thing, where it's like, if I want to play music at some point in my life, this would be the time to do it.
Yeah.
And similarly, like, it's, you know, now's the time, like, for any of that stuff, because the more you wait, the you know, the more you become that person who's consuming so you can shut off that part of your brain that wants to make stuff.
Mm.
You know, like, at least for me. And I think there are some people who are really content just kind of doing the 9 to 5, and, like, you know, good for you, you know, like, good for those people. But I don't know. I think it's worth it. It's weird though. Like, you're describing it right. Like, I don't meet I surround myself with the weird people who do actually do it.
Yeah.
But I find that, like, I've always liked weird people more than normal people anyway. Like, I don't like normal people. I have trouble relating. So I don't know if that makes sense. But all right.
Yeah. It does.
So you bunch of weirdos. Jeff, thanks for joining us, man. It's been fun. It's always fun talking to you, man.
Yeah, thanks for that. I appreciate it. It was a blast.
Yeah. And I got work done, which is like was the thing that got me hooked on Artcasters. You get a lot done. All right, let's do a round. Is there anything we didn't touch on you guys wanted to hit? We're at like 146, so
I think we're over time. No, I think I mean, obviously this is a topic we could keep continuing on and talking about. So yeah. I mean, you got to kind of pull the plug at some point. So I think we worked our way around it pretty good.
Jeff, you feel good?
Yeah, I feel great.
All right, cool. All right, so let's make the rounds. Let's make the rounds. You can find my my personal autobiographical story about a time in my life where I suffered from faith and mental illness, or suffered from mental illness and found faith. I don't know. I got to figure out the pitch. But you can find it at quarterlystories.com and read it and give me some tips on pitches, and I'll be sending it to you, Jeff, too, for that, because I need that paragraph.
Yeah, don't send it to me. I want to read the story. You know what I mean? I'm looking for the book. So don't talk to me without that. I don't want to see you around without that book. So.
Oh no. I mean, like, I'll give you a copy so you can read through it. And
I want to get one off Kickstarter. So don't do me any favor.
I love it. Okay. Well, anyhow. So, yeah, you can check that out at quarterlystories.com. You can check out my freelance stuff at joshuakimball.com, as well as a bunch of other comics. And you're on my YouTube channel. So if you haven't hit subscribe, hit the bell. Scott, where can everybody find you?
Well, you got to go to Jeff. You forget how this works. You forget how this works.
I am forgetting. Jeff, where can people find Berserkernaut? Where can they find your paintings? Where can they commission you? Where can they check you out on YouTube? All that.
No, but yeah, I'm not doing commissions anymore. So don't come looking for that. But just my is my YouTube channel. That's where I hang out. So, you know, YouTube/C/Jeff Lafferty is my thing. So
awesome.
If you go there,
that's in the notes.
You can find everything. Yeah. If you want to find out about the animation or the comic or whatever, just come hang out there for a while. You'll figure it out. So.
I adore it, and I think that's amazing. and the animation is really exciting. It's cool. Jeff, you're always doing something new, like in a cool, intriguing, awesome way. All right, Scott, where can everybody go to get a second tier to make me crack up and also make my week and year? Where can they do this? Hashtag
if you go to Amazon.com, some of you guys may have heard of that. Yeah, go to Amazon and then /shop/Circworks, and from there there'll be a link where you can click on to get some t-shirts. Like I said, this is one of them. The haters hate, creators create. So I got a few more to go before I get to the next tier, and I will be happy when that happens, so I don't have to, I can get my next one, and then and then hopefully I'll be done with this. So anyway, yeah, so that's pretty much all I got to promote today. And yeah, oh yeah, I forgot. See, everyone's forgetting today. So the other thing that I want to mention is this show that we do right here, the Artcasters. It's been going for a long time. It was actually started by our guest. Originally, it was Jeff, Kevin Cross, and myself. I think Kevin's going to be on next week. But anyway, so yeah, it's been going strong, but things change along the way, and part of that is YouTube. Sometimes they decide they don't want to let people know about things or whatever, or they change all this different stuff. But the one constant way you can know exactly where we're going to be, because this show moves back and forth between Josh's channel and my own channel, usually Thursday nights around 9 Pacific, but it's possible if there's like a holiday or something going on or whatever, it could switch. So it's always good to know, or you want to know exactly when we're going to go on. If you want to be live, you want to be in the chat and everything. The easiest way to do that is to join our mailing list, and we don't spam you or anything like that. Usually about 30 minutes ahead of time, we'll send out a newsletter with a link, and you can click on that. That's how you know how to get on the show or get in the chat and watch the show live. So check that out.
I love it. And I just want to say thanks to everybody in the chat. It's awesome. It always makes the show way more fun. And I love that we have like an active and awesome community that we're building, which is really cool. I also totally forgot to mention this. Usually I'd close out now. If you are bored and you're in California and it's Valentine's Day, let's say you don't have a Valentine, you don't mind driving to Lancaster, California, go to the King in Lancaster, California. We're an opening band because, like I mentioned before, we're literally doing this for fun and free beer. And we're opening for our friends Default American at the King, and it should be fun. It's a weird, crazy like biker bar, and it's amazing. And I think you guys would have fun there. So come check out some rock and roll. And if you're not in that area, that's a silly thing. But anyhow, just mentioning it. All right. We will see you guys next week with Kevin, which is kind of cool. It's like a big reunion. It's exciting.
So not at the same time. We'll have to make that happen at some point. Get Jeff in.
Yeah, we will. We'll make it happen.
And we'll have to kick Josh off just to make it like old times.
I'm down. I will, like I said, this is Jeff's show. Jeff owns it. You can kick me off any day.
Right. Sorry, Josh, that's my mailman.
All right, guys. Have a good night.
See you later. Bye.